I'm wearing my my Happy Mexican Death sarong today. See? Is there a name for the Mexican death skull of happiness? I don't know. But I'm cleaning my other one, washing by hand. I just took a shower and washed my hair. I have clean sheets. I just paid to stay here for another 10 days. Cada diez dias, which kind of has a nice ring to it. I wanted to talk about a little bit of what I was talking about yesterday and how I put it into practice, because that's useful. The woman who manages this place repeatedly did things that triggered me and made me feel unwelcomed and unappreciated and unwanted. And I kept being like, oh, she's stressed out, and then the whole world's stressed out, and I was giving her a lot of like leeway, but it was continually triggering me. And one morning while I was teaching Qigong to one of the guys, I mentioned this practice my mother had introduced me to called the emotion code, where you use kinesiology to go through your emotional body and look for trapped emotions that are causing triggerings or manifestations of suffering, pain, whatever, sickness. And I just I was trying to give him a demonstration. I was like, do I have a trapped emotion that's relating to the way this woman is making me feel? And it was like, yeah. And I was like, can I release that? And he said, no. And I said, are there other emotions that I need to release before I can release it? And I was demonstrating like this is something that often happens, that we have like layers of emotions that are holding other emotions in place. And it was like, yeah. So I went through it in front of him, and it was really nice because while I was discovering, because the way the process works is you kind of search through the time, and then there's some systems that relate a lot to Taoism, the 5 elements and the organs. You relate to it. It has a way of organizing the emotions in such a way that you can look through them with charts and graphs, but I have it internalized at this point, so I don't really need to use the charts and graphs. And as I identified the emotions and they came up into the present, they were emotions from the past. The main emotion was from like when I was 7 years old, but I first had to release emotions that were more recent, relating to a completely different person. But there were obvious resonances. The completely different person was a good friend and lover of mine, one of my best friends, who is in a daddy kind of position simply because of our age relationship, or age ratio. And then the initial emotion was like 7 and relating to my dad, of course. So it was nice as I was going through the emotions with him. To demonstrate for him, I was bringing up the emotions and fully feeling them in my emotional body. And I was like, wow, I've done this privately on my own many times, but I've never really done it verbally for a demonstration for someone else. And it was so amazing to feel the emotions express, to bring them up and just be like, oh, that's what that feels like. Whoa. And then there would be other non-logical stuff happening in different parts of my body. But what it reminded me of was that I was being triggered. And generally when we're triggered, we do things that we generally wouldn't choose to do if we weren't triggered. It's kind of like being on drugs or, drunk or something. Like you do crazy things that later when you're sober, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I had, when she triggered me, I repeatedly got to a point of kind of craziness where there were all these ants in my bed after she gave me the last set of clean sheets. And I was like, does she hate me? She wants me to leave. Maybe she wrapped the sheets in food first and then gave them to me so that it would attract ants. Maybe this is some Mexican thing they do when they want you to leave. And I noticed that I was going crazy. It's always the dangerous thing about people who go crazy is when they don't notice they're going crazy. I think everybody is crazy and goes crazy regularly. I'm somebody who's really been okay, let's go crazy, obviously, because I feel like it's who I am and a part of the way that I fully express myself. And I feel like if you can integrate the crazy into reality, then you're no longer crazy. You find the way that it fits into the rest of reality that is crazy, but we call it normal. Anyway, in doing this emotional release process, it allowed me to remember that even though I had been trying to make allowances for her triggering me and making me feel bad, I hadn't really done those kind of Brahma Vihara practices. So over the next couple days, I spent a lot of time being like, I love her, and I love her partner, husband, whatever guy who was also triggering me, and I want them to be well, and I want them to be free of suffering. I want my heart to be free of hatred for them, because it's not ever a good idea to live with hatred in your heart towards people. So if you have neighbors that are driving you nuts, like, remember that you can't escape from them, but what you can do is love them, and that hammering on the wall or the ceiling or something doesn't have to be something that makes you want to punch through the wall and strangle them. It can be something that you'd be like, I love them and I want them to be well, and I want them to do things that make them happy, and we're all in this together, and we all do stupid things, and we're all doing the best we can, whatever narrative you use. But it was really great because as I started to recover from my fear, panic, anxiety spiral that this world situation we're in right now started for a lot of us. Like, a lot of us went into a fear, panic spiral thing that some of us, we're going through waves. Sometimes we feel grounded and relaxed, and we're like, this is just life now. And sometimes we're like, holy fuck, what's happening? What's gonna happen? We just go through those. But as I started to come out of that, I was like, okay, how can I be proactive and use the skills I have, which is one of the things that led me to making these videos and teaching and blah, blah, blah. But one of the things I'm good at is working with herbs. And a girl here who's an herbalist who I found on the street around the time this started, she introduced me, not on purpose, to an herb that is specifically good for this situation. It's good for bronchitis, it's good for asthma, it's good for any kind of breathing problem, it's good for fevers, and it's antibiotic and antiviral. Yay, herbs. The translation of it is fat wolf, gordo lobo. Gordo lobo. It's not a plant I'd ever heard of. It does grow in Texas, and it's called winged cudweed there. I can't remember the Latin name right now. But the next time I went into town, I found the herb. I talked to some old ladies, because old ladies are always the best place to go for herbs. And I bought some. I could show it to you. I bought some, and I went and I bought some mezcal, which you can get really cheap here. Winged cudweed, gordo lobo. It's not particularly astringent, which I expected it to be. And then I fished through a recycling bin, and I got an old whiskey bottle and cleaned it out and garbled the weed, the the whole plant, which means cut it or rip it up into little pieces with your hand, and then I stuffed it in the bottle and filled it with mezcal, and every day I shake it slightly. So it's been 2 weeks now, so it's ready. So right around the time that it had reached 2 weeks and it was ready, this woman who had been triggering me and making me feel unwelcome and unwanted and angry and sad and worthless and all these things she was triggering, she got sick. And the two boys who I've been teaching Qigong to, they were also triggered by her in various different ways, but we all identified it as like root parent junk. But they were like, hope she fucking dies. And I was like, no, we don't. We don't. And they were like, are you gonna leave, or are you just gonna say fuck you and take off? And I was like, actually I've been working on loving them, and again, like various people in my life who have triggered me and made me feel horrible, I practice loving them, I practice forgiving them, and it's easier to love people sometimes when you're not around them. So since we've been in this lockdown situation here in Mexico, they mostly have just left me alone because they're isolating, which it makes it much easier to not be triggered by them because I don't interact with them. So various people in my life that have been difficult that I've tried to do this practice with, I've learned to love them, and it's much easier to love them without actually being around them. But she got sick, and I asked her if she knew the plant Gordo Lobo and if she would like some of the tincture, and she said, thank you so much, I would love that. So I got a little glass jar, and I filled it like that much with the tincture, and I said, take at least 20 drops 3 times a day and use it up and feel good. And she feels much better, and she thanked me, and there was like a heartfelt thanks. today when I gave her the money for the next 10 days here. And it was just one of those things that I was like, it's so nice to be able to free yourself from bitterness and anger and fear and sorrow and the idea of revenge and frustration. Again, we don't always remember we have that option. We don't always remember. We sometimes are just like, I fucking hate her, and I hate her, and I hate her, and I hate her, she's horrible. And we just keep saying that. We keep telling that story, and every once in a while something will go boop, and we'll be like, oh yeah, I don't have to hate her. I can be free from hating her. She probably doesn't hate me. Whatever story I'm telling that she's triggering me is just my story. She has completely other reasons, I'm sure, for acting the way she's acting. I mean, it's a nice level of human arrogance that we often forget, that when we project a story on someone, we just believe it's true. We think they're acting a certain way because of the reasons we think they're acting that way, when very often it really has nothing to do with the story we're making up. But we're righteous and angry and arrogant, so we never even let ourselves have the opportunity of realizing that we might just be making up the whole story. One of the things that was really fun about these meditation retreats is if you're there for 2 weeks or 3 months, you see some people and you see them every day and you don't talk to them and you're not supposed to interact with them. They have these things called Vipassana romances and Vipassana vendettas, where somebody will just do something and for some reason you'll hate them. You'll make up a whole story about how horrible these people are because they chew gum or wear terrible pants or something. Or you love their tights, or you love their beard, or what other reasons you might love someone, and you just make up this whole story about how you love them and maybe they're the perfect person that you've always waited for because they go to meditation retreats too. Anyway, you make up this whole story, and it's amazing if you have even a few minutes to talk to that person when the retreat's over, and you just have this nice little earth-shattering, oh, I was just making all this shit up. I don't know who this person is at all. As soon as you hear their voice, you're like, that's what their voice sounds like? Oh, that's how they think? Oh, that's the reality of their life? Oh. But that happens in every aspect of life. We see people, we just make up stories, and especially if they trigger us, we make up stories and we believe them, and we get all bent out of shape. And the person may play very well into our stories, and that has a little more of a complex situation where I often think that we always have a whole bunch of stories running inside of our body, in our mind, in our heart. We have a whole bunch of stories running, and if this makes sense to you, let's say the stories running are generating an energy field, like a turbine turning generates electricity and an electromagnetic field. So we have all these stories that are spinning all the time. Our mind is telling them, our heart is telling them, they're going somewhere in our gut, whatever. And they're generating all these fields. And when people come into that field, it triggers in them certain stories. And I've seen myself do this very often. We just start playing roles for other people. I cannot tell you how many times I'll interact with someone new who I feel I have this interesting resonance with, and I'll say something I never say, hey bro, what's up dog? I don't ever say that, but for some reason I say that to this girl and she's just like, oh, I fucking hate that. My boyfriend used to say that all the time. So something that I never usually say, I will for some reason be moved to say to someone that I feel like a nice connection with, and it will trigger them and make them freaked out. And I've always attributed that to the fact that in our field of resonance, when people enter it, if they have the capability, with all the complexity of being manifest as a being, if they have the right conditions, they will play a role in our story that will either help us or hurt us. And they might have no idea what that role is, that all of a sudden they've been cast in and that they're all of a sudden performing. They're just being themselves and they act however they act. And some people are less aware of how they act and some people are more aware. But I've noticed myself that I've acted ways that are out of character with my normal character, just because I interact with people. And I feel I've seen that many times with people that I've been in intimate relationships with, because I've had so many relationship patterns that are the exact same with many different people. And it's not that these people are like that with all of their friends. It's not like these people are like that with everyone in their life. They're like that with me. And it's not my fault. It's just because I have a resonant energy field that's playing stories. And so when the person steps into my energy field, they really have no choice but to either play the role or I just have no interest in interacting with them. It's the grounds at which we interact. And again, these are kind of unconscious things and they're kind of really difficult to disable, but that's one of the things we work on. So I wanted to share that story that's kind of like, practicing the metta, the compassion thing, that if you can resonate it at someone, you can think of it sending thoughts and prayers kind of thing to them and maybe healing them. Oh, I love you, and I don't want you to be angry at me, and please don't hurt me anymore. But probably more likely, or more importantly, you're repatterning your energy towards them so that when you actually interact with them, they have the freedom from your weird tyrannical story complex to just be whoever they are, doing whatever they're doing, having whatever their reality is, and you have the freedom to allow them to be that way without casting them as a tyrant or a demon or your father or your mother or your perfect lover. I mean, that can be just as bad if you have this whole, like, you don't allow someone to be who they are because they have to be this ideal perfect husband for you when you're just a person. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that. So the little healing thing that I wanted to teach tonight is, see, that was storytelling and teaching, right? The little healing thing that I wanted to teach tonight is very simple. It doesn't require like learning a whole new energetic language or chanting or it just requires some silence and some stillness, preferably at least 5 minutes or however long you can give to it. And it's really, really good to do when you're laying down to go to sleep. So you have as much time as you want. It gives you something to do while you're getting ready to go to sleep. And this is something that I found. I was looking through my writings yesterday to look for something that I had wanted to write, and I didn't know if I had written it already. So I have like 4,300 something notes in my iPhone because I write a lot. And I didn't find exactly what I was looking for, but in it I found the description of this ritual, and that I got it from Richard Chamberlain, the actor, who I don't know, because of a book my mother had given me that he wrote about his spiritual development and his coming out as being gay. And so like he had them together, that like the book was revealing that he was a spiritual person and a homosexual, and that he had been somewhat famous as an actor. I don't remember what he was in, but a lot of people love Richard Chamberlain from a different generation. He said one of his spiritual teachers told him, thank you, Jim. He said one of his spiritual teachers told him that cliche that you just have to like listen to your heart, which people told me 1,000 fucking times when I was younger, and I was like, what do you even mean? I don't know, what do you mean, listen to your heart? There's like, whatever, it's going bum 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 bum. I'd get really quiet and I'd just like listen and I'd hear the heart beating, and sometimes I'd feel the heart beating, and I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by listen to your heart. What the fuck does that mean? And this was whatever my situation was when I was younger. But he had said the spiritual teacher had told him, just get in touch with the physical space of your heart. And the simple way to do it is just put your hands over your heart and feel the physical space of your heart, the physical amount of space that your heart is taking up. So your hands are just laying on your chest. They could be on top of each other or just like this. And that's not even necessary, but it just helps you focus your energy on being like, how much space in this chest that I call mine, how much space is my heart taking up? And what's it feel like? Maybe what's its temperature? How is it nestled in amongst the lungs? And again, right now, because we're in this world situation with lungs, thank you nurses, we love you. We're in this world situation with lungs. You can also use that for this, because all the organs hold and resonate and generate emotion. So we can just put our hands on our chest and spend some time relaxing into the experience of just feeling the inside cavity of our thoracic cavity, the inside of the rib cage. What's going on in there? What does the heart feel like? What do the lungs feel like? Can you feel the kidneys? Whatever you can feel. And it's not looking for some kind of wow spiritual experience. It's just like really on a simple physical level, what does this feel like? And after I read this in my notes yesterday, I was like, oh, I'm going to take a siesta. It was very much like a Sunday for me, very much like a day off. So I was just laying in bed, and I was like, what does my heart feel like? And lungs. What do the heart and lungs feel like? Do you have anything to tell me? Just like presenting these kind of concepts, like having a relationship with them. There's a Taoist practice of inner smile, like you greet someone on the street, hello, how are you doing today? And you smile at them, nice day, happy day to you, whatever. But you can do that to your inner organs. Hey heart, it's nice to see you, how are you today? And then you just sit and listen. Just listen. And it's really, I mean, it's very hard for a lot of us to focus. Somebody was recently saying to me that they were like, well, you know, Dominic, I don't think you understand that nobody has an attention span anymore. Everything you're making is like these hour-long videos, and your writings are all like 8,000 words. Like, nobody has the attention span. And I'm like, I'm not writing to the people who need 1-minute videos. I'm writing to the people who want to actually spend time doing something. There are still people out there who like to spend time reading a long article. I do. There are still people out there who like to watch long videos. There's just different people in the world. So I'm not writing to the people who only have the attention span of 20 seconds. I'm writing to the people who have a different type of attention span. I'm making videos for people who have a different type of attention span. And when you're trying to feel yourself, again, like when I was talking about in the meditation video, that one of the most important meditations I can recommend to people is to just sit and feel your body. You don't need to make it spiritual. You don't need to make it like Buddhist or Christian or whatever. It's just amazing. It is fucking like mind-blowing to sit, give yourself like 20 minutes, an hour, just feel your body. What does your body feel like? Like, what kind of stories is it telling you? Like, learning the language of listening to your body. One of the things that's really exciting about that is understanding that you don't know, accepting that you don't know. You're like, what are you trying to say to me? I feel maybe a congestion or a tightness. That kind of hurts. I don't understand that hurt. What's going on? You have your hand on your heart. You have your hand on your lungs. You're like, what are these feelings? That is a great way to be. It's not about knowing. It's not about understanding. It's about just listening. I learned this from a lot of my female friends when I lived at the massage school in California, that they would be like, Dominic, don't give us advice, don't tell us what to do, don't try to fix us, just listen. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what you want. Because my natural impulse was like, well, let's come up with a solution. What can we do to fix this problem? And they're just like, no, I don't need that. I just want you to listen. And I'm like, oh. And I feel like a lot of the body's like that. I mean, as a masseur, one of the things that I say to people all the time is your body is constantly trying to get your attention. It's constantly talking to you, and most of the time you're like, it hurts, I don't want to feel that. And you just tune out, tune out, tune out. We have so much pain in our body all the time, and we always just want to tune out, avoid, tune out, avoid. Can't blame us for that because it's unpleasant. And the natural response to something unpleasant is avoid, get away, avoidance, numb, all those things. So when you just choose to devote some time listening to your heart, to your lungs, or whatever, you know, put your hands on your belly, listen to your belly, put your hands on your face, listen to your brain, whatever. You can put your hands anywhere and just put your attention there and be like, oh, my shoulder hurts. What do you have to say to me, shoulder? When your brain wants to turn away from it, you just like go, oh, it's okay, brain. I understand you don't like the pain, or I understand you don't like trying to pay attention for more than 2 seconds. But let's just go back and listen again to the shoulder, listen again to the bones, listen again to the heart, the heart, the heart. Yeah, when I give massage to people, I always say that this is just basically a trick. You're paying for a few hours with me to go through your body and let you feel your body in a safe space, where I'm going to do a combination of stuff that feels really good. You're like, oh, that feels so good. It's just sensual, maybe like kissing the shoulder, maybe petting, or just, you know, very gentle, and like rubbing nice smelling oils on you. But then I'm like digging my elbow into you and like getting into the stuff that's been bound up in your shoulder for like 30 years and just trying to like get it out. But because I'm constantly balancing it with sugar, right? Your body's like, oh, I want to feel that. Ow. Oh, and I'm like, oh, I want to feel that. So if you can do that as well, give yourself some sugar, when you're like feeling your heart, and if something comes up and you're like, I want to cry and I don't know why, what's that? Just be like, it's okay, I love you. Like, I cannot stress how powerful that's been for me. And that I just encourage everyone to say to themselves, I love you all the time. And then take a second to feel it. If you think of someone you've ever been in love with, a friend of mine died last year in December. One of those, like, the world's changing, I'm checking out. He died of like a stroke or a heart attack, and he was only like 67 or something. I don't know, he wasn't very old. But he was, always an old bear, and he was a chubby, cute little bear. I met his husband of, I think, 11 years, like right before he died. I only knew him for like 3 years, but I met his husband of like 12 years or something right before my friend died. And when I got back to New York last time, I sent him a text and I was like, hey, do you want to get together and have sex? And his husband replied, and he's like, I'm so sorry, Dominic. He died, like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Not sorry that I was asking if I could have sex with him, but just, when you see relationships that are happy, you're just like, oh, I'm so sorry that he died, and that now what for you? And last night I found myself looking through his Facebook feed, and a lot of his posts are posting memories of wonderful trips he went on with his husband and calling him his angel, and there's this very sweet thing we do when we're in love with people, where we come up with pet names and we exalt them and we glorify them. And if you can be your lover like that, even if you have a husband and a dog and some kids or whatever, or multiple lovers, if you can make yourself your sweetheart, just every once in a while, or every time you remember to, every minute. Oh, my angel, I love you so much. I'm so glad I get to spend this time too. Oh, we're together in this trip in Mexico, where we get stuck in this little beach. We had plans to go other places, but honey, it's nice to be here with you. Give yourself some sugar when you choose to spend some time feeling your body, either if it's just sitting, meditation, or laying in bed at night before going to sleep with your hands somewhere specific, or just open awareness and being like, hey body, what's going on? And the body's like, my feet hurt. You're like, oh, I'm sorry the feet hurt. And it's not like necessarily, do you want me to do something about that? But just like try to feel, what does that hurt feel like? Although, I cannot recommend enough how nice it is to massage your own feet every night with a little bit of oil, or other parts of your body, just a little oil on your hands. And give yourself some loving, especially right now when you can't hook up or hire people for massages. Being your own lover and being a really good lover for yourself, not just buying chocolate and cake, but making love to yourself a little bit. And I don't mean just your genitals, but just like, some oil and loving on your neck, maybe loving on your face, and back to the heart, just resting and being with, honey, what do you feel like? How you doing? So I don't know if it was Los Angeles. We're not going to blame Los Angeles. But it might also have just been the full moon. I don't know if some of you who have never taken the time to learn about tides. I grew up in Indiana, so I didn't have to worry about tides growing up. But the Bay of Fundy between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia taught me about tides because they're gigantic there. Biggest tide differential in the world. Go check it out when you can be a tourist again. But the biggest tides come around the full moon or the new moon. And I've noticed that around the biggest tides here, it goes so high that it's washing the beach. And so a lot of the dog shit and the suntan lotion and the garbage, whatever, gets swept in. But also, I guess last week there was tons of rain in Los Angeles. And because I'm downstream, right, down the Pacific coast goes down and the current comes south, I think it was just washing the muck out of the mountains and the streets of Los Angeles, which eventually all percolated into the sea, which was coming down here. But the ocean was like green, not blue. See, it's blue right now. The ocean was green, and the froth was like latex yellow thick. Like the froth on the top was like curdled and like jumping with the waves and specks of it going everywhere. And when you got close to it and you looked, there was like lots of shit floating in it, and it was just gross. And I didn't get in the ocean for like a week. I mean, it was really bad for like 2 weeks, and I only got in a little bit. The water got really cold and got really dirty. And yesterday I noticed the water was clean again, and the level of foam is way down. And I went down into the water like an hour ago or something, and the tide was low. And it's the first time, it's the first time since I've been here that I was able to just chill out in the water without having to fight. Because these waves are fucking crazy. And I didn't have to fight. I just was like hanging out in the water, and it just felt nice. And I was so grateful that it didn't feel filthy, although it had some junk in it. It didn't feel filthy, and it didn't feel like I had to fight for my life. The tide was super low, and I could stand up. My feet were always on the ground. This little cove right here, not this little one, but this bigger one here. This bigger one here has a big deep pocket, and then as you see, like this right here is a shallow bank of sand. So if you get in on the coast over here, you've got this deep area here, and then if you walk out here, this is kind of tricky to do. If you walk out here, you can just stand up and walk around in the sand, and then like further out there is where the surfers go. This little cove that's closest right here, if you get over in this area, there's a gyre that just like can pull you out and smash you against rocks. So I'm always very careful about that. But it was very nice to be able to get in the deeper water here, which was deep enough to submerge myself. There's a bunch of grackles walking around the branches behind me. I could submerge myself and cool off, which is really nice to be able to get in some water and cool off in the heat here without feeling like I had to fight. Lots of things to be thankful for. How are you guys doing? Do you have anything nice to say about how was your... It's today's Saturday, right? Do you have anything to say about how nice your Saturday was, or anything in the last few days that I could share with people who are here? Yeah, I believe they're grackles. This isn't really the ground. This is like, I forget what that's called. It's like a shade structure that they've thrown a bunch of palm leaves over. And these birds make sounds like, I think they're kind of like mockingbirds, but they're like a weird crowy type thing. They make sounds like fire alarms and trucks backing up and alarm clocks. And sometimes they sound like a techno album. They're pretty exciting. I think they're grackle. Fly, today is living. We are able to continue because the world, it's still breathing. It's good to be here with you. I am here. You are here. And today is forever. One of the projects I have while being here is trying to teach myself some songs that I like in Spanish as a way of kind of helping me learn the language, because I like singing. And I haven't really started that project yet, except organizing the lyrics, but I haven't actually practiced singing them. But that song that I just sang for some reason was in my head. And it's a song that's kind of funny. It's called Bambi by an Icelandic group called Gus Gus. maybe I'll put a link, a Spotify link or a YouTube link, whichever you prefer, in the comments when I'm done with this. But it's a very silly song, but it's very hopeful, which is one of the nice things. It's a hopeful song. Thank you, Ricardo. That's so nice, Michael. Thank you. I like that. It was a nice day because it was snowing. And then it rained, and it washed all the snow away. And now I'm just enjoying you. Yeah, friends of mine in upstate New York have been posting pictures of, like, yesterday it was like, look at this nice dusting of snow in mid-April. And then today it was like, no longer is it a dusting of snow, it's just very thick. Really? You sang songs in Spanish in the seminary? Or Latin? Or both? Eres una máquina. Oh, and also Ricardo, I don't know how wide my vocal range actually is, but I used to be a tenor, and I loved singing in falsetto, but as I've gotten older, I like baritone and bass a lot, and I'm not super good at bass, but sometimes I can, depending on how relaxed my throat is, and I like singing in, like, deeper tones too. El gallo ha muerto. So that's the rooster is dead. I'll see if I can find it, Steve, and I can put it on my list of songs to learn if I like the melody. That'll be more difficult because I don't know it. The songs that I was going to sing, like, I know them already, or at least the melodies, and I've heard them 1,000 times, but I'll look it up. El gallo ha muerto. I guess that means the rooster is dead. It might be a tenor too. I don't know if I can do a tenor example. Like, what's a tenor example? Who would be the tenors? Or, like, from high school days of, like, show choir, how would that be? It would be like, oh, Shenandoah, Shenandoah. No, I'm singing O Tannenbaum with trying to sing O Shenandoah. That's not it. Yesterday, when I wrote the beginning of this, I was making is Que Dolor a song, or are you just saying, oh, Que Dolor? What are you saying there, Steve? The song that I was referencing at the beginning of this description that I was writing today was I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And there was a prelude to it in the version we sang in show choir that it was like, something like, gee, but it's rough to be broken. It's not a joke, kid. It's a curse. My luck is changing. It's gotten from simply rotten to something worse. Now then I don't remember the bridge, and then it was like, ya no dire mas coco di coco da. What? I can't give you anything but love, baby. Diamond bracelets, Woolworths doesn't sell, baby. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby. I can't give you anything but love. Which is again forgetting a whole line that was what I was trying to reference, which was happiness, and I guess all of those things you always pined for. El gallo es muerto. El gallo es muerto. Qué dolor. Qué pena. Qué dolor. Qué triste would be how sad. Qué dolor is like, oh, what suffering. No longer will he say cock-a-doodle-doo. How do they do that in Spanish? Is it like cucurucuri? I love how different languages make the rooster sounds. I think it's Chinese that goes cucuricuri as opposed to cockaloodoo. El gallo está muerto. No es. Está muerto. Like it's some temporary thing. I guess it is. We'll be born anew. Kikirikiri. Gracias, Ricardo. Ricardo, where are your peoples from? Where are your peoples from? What kind of Latin American or Spanish are you? Cocody cocoda. Ah, see, you weren't talking about coconuts. Cocody cocoda. That's fun. I'll try to sing that song. I'll look it up. And I'm sure Jorge would know a perfect rendition of it by his favorite singer. Ah, Venezuela. Were you born there? I have some friends from Venezuela. There's a very nice girl I met here from Venezuela, but she lives in Brooklyn. But she and her partner are not in Brooklyn right now. They're at their place down here. Ah, gracias. Frank's like, here's the lyrics, baby. Sing the whole thing properly. 1928. Yeah. Arepas. How would you say that? Haces arepas para nosotros. Ahora. Saint Meinrad's version of Spanish, right? The Swiss hospitality saint, teaching y'all some Spanish, realness. In a different time zone, in the little corner of Indiana that has a different time zone. It's pretty cool, man. It's unique stories. I soaked some jamaica, you know, the hibiscus leaves, hibiscus flowers, in some water, and squeezed a lime into it after a couple hours, and then cut up a bunch of ginger root. You can't see it. Cut up a bunch of fresh ginger root. Arepas. Just had that for dinner. I have a Venezuelan friend, Ricardo, who lives in Massachusetts right now at the meditation retreat center I've been going to. He lived in New York for a long time as a choreographer and dancer, performer. But now he's cooking in the kitchens there and teaching meditation. He taught me about arepas as well. He's a wonderful teacher. I think he's also teaching online, like everybody. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby, I can't give you anything but love. Jesus' blood never failed me yet, never failed me yet, never failed me yet. Jesus' blood never failed me. Today might just be a cacahuates y fruta day. I've had pizza every night for dinner for the last 4 nights. But yeah, I hope to... hey, Ricardo, do you have a favorite song in Spanish that you would recommend I learn to sing? Currently, I have 2 songs by Devendra Banhart, who grew up in Venezuela, but he was born in America, and he lives in... I don't know where he lives right now, but I think he lives in America, near Los Angeles somewhere. I want to sing 2 of his songs in Spanish, which are goofy and fun. And then I want to sing a song by a Catalonian group, 2 gay guys who call themselves Hidrogenes. And I want to make one of their crazy dance pop songs into a ballad. And another version, another cover they did of someone else. I just really think it's nice poetry. I know I'm singing it. We'll see what it sounds like singing it a cappella, because I don't have any instruments except this little turtle thing that I don't really know how to play. I've never learned how to play flutes. Algo de Jamaica. And you know, when I kept typing it into Google to search for it, it kept bringing up Jamaica, and I was like, no, not Jamaica. And then I realized that it's Mexicans pronouncing the word Jamaica, which makes sense because that's how they'd say it. Because they're getting it from how they drink it a lot in Jamaica. But in Jamaica, when they drink hibiscus tea or sorrel tea, they always boil it with cloves and ginger and sometimes cinnamon and other spicy roots or spicy spices that they don't necessarily put in it in Mexico. And I don't have access to hot water, so I just put fresh ginger in it with some lime, and that's good enough. I don't need all the other hot spices. But that sounds really good. Jamaica is really good about the ginger beer and the spicy, you know, putting in cloves and other delicious stuff. So I don't know, we had some storytelling and some singing. Bésame mucho. ¿Por qué no? Bésame mucho. I don't actually know that song. I've heard it, but I don't know. But I like the idea of learning how to sing something in Spanish and learning, you know, right now I have 4 songs queued up, and maybe I'll learn how to sing the Rooster is Dead song too, because that sounds like a very timely song. Projects, keeping ourselves busy, giving ourselves things to do, good things to nourish us and hopefully make the world a better place. Do you guys want me to take you for a walk or just sit quietly for a little while and watch the sea? Yeah, I'm not yet competent or confident enough with negotiating the language where I could do a Google search on like traditional Mexican folklore songs about, you know, that are sung on Day of the Dead. I could probably search that in English, actually. Maybe I should do that. Again, I'm staying on the Beach of the Dead, the Beach of Death. This is an old Zapotec name. The name of this town is an old Zapotec word for the Beach of the Dead. And because we're in this pandemic thing, this new pandemic reality that we've all dialed into, it's just nice to think about death a lot. It's nice. And be friendly with it, hang out with it. Hey, old buddy, what you up to? We're all gonna get together again someday, right? We got an appointment. So, like, that's one of the aspects of Mexican culture that I'm kind of like trying to learn a little bit about, or feel at least. This town being so touristy, I'm mostly interacting with foreigners. And even the people running the hotel thing that I'm in, they're Mexicans, but they're not from here. They're not Oaxaqueños. Oaxaqueños. Part of the deal, right? If any of you ever heard of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, it's a fun little chemical that your pineal gland is always producing, and apparently it floods your brain with it when you're born and when you die, apparently. And one of the forms of antidepressants, which one of our mental health worker friends here could talk about, I believe MAOI inhibitors, one of the things that it does is it slows the breakdown of DMT, so you've got a higher, so it's kind of like helping microdose on psychedelics like LSD as an antidepressant. Cabellera del Dia de los Muertos. No, Calavera. Calavera. Is that the name of the song? What is Calavera? Look it up. But dimethyltryptamine, DMT, is interesting amongst the psychedelics or the entheogens, whatever you want to call it, because it gives everyone the same experience. That experience plays out differently. Well, that's the name of the skull I just showed you. Gracias. I can pick you up one of these here, Michael. There's a lot of them. But I felt like I needed to buy it when it was being offered to me. I paid more for it than 100 pesos more than the one that I bought previously. But it's like, it's nice to have two. It's nice to have a skull friend to hang out with. I keep distracting myself from what I'm trying to say. DMT is one of the unique, or the unique thing about the trip. It has like an arc that everyone goes along, although what you experience is different for you. But your ego gets destroyed and shattered and disappears, and you have some time existing in a non-ego relation void, which might be in that for a couple minutes or a couple hours, depending on your psyche. And then the idea of you comes back into existence, and you reassemble your ego and your relationship with what we call reality. And when you do that, at least for me and for a lot of other people, you see clearly all the agreements you made coming into this life. It just snaps in, like in a multi-dimensional way, into your consciousness. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I chose those parents and this job and this and that. And that's why I chose to be here at this time, so that I could go through this experience, so I could do this. Oh yeah, so I could. And it's really nice for me. I only did it once, but having that multi-dimensional, like, oh yeah, that was part of the agreement, right? And so it's a nice thing to remember about the death thing. That like you're gonna die. There's nothing you can do to prevent that. You don't know when it's going to happen. It's going to be a car crash. It's going to be a heart attack. It's going to be whatever. We don't want to talk about all the ways because some of them just sound unpleasant or scary or whatever. But regardless, it's going to happen. So, like, what's kind of interesting is when people have near-death experiences, they can be like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not dead. Oh, like the spirits, because I had a near-death experience once, and they're like, no, actually, you have to go back. And I was like, what? They're like, you're not done. And I was like, oh. So I did DMT once, and I had a near-death experience once. And the near-death experience was much more narrative. There was much more of a continuity of I all the way through that. Like, I died, I went through the tunnel into the light, I saw everyone I ever knew, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I've been so crazy. It's so good to be here with you again. I forgot. I thought I was a human for a while. It was so, and they're like, actually, you're not done. You got to go back. And they kind of tapped me, and I fell back into the bottom, which was a very long time. Somebody just tried to call me. She's offering me chocolates, a local girl who makes these. Trying to interrupt my Facebook Live. Yes, I did go where I am by bus because I was told by a Canadian guy who's been coming here since the 70s to come down here from Mexico City by bus because then I'd get to see the landscape. And that's one of the ways I like to travel anyway. I like to stay on the ground so I can see more things. I mean, flying is, if you do something a lot of times, it's kind of okay to skip it. But if you've never done it before, it's really nice to see the route to get to where you're going. It kind of connects things together. I mean, that being said, I didn't take a bus down to Mexico City. But I took the bus down here from Mexico City via Puebla, and then Tula, and then Ixmiquilpan, and then Grutas Tolatango, Ixmiquilpan, Puebla, Ciudad de Oaxaca, para 2 noches. 2 noches. Entonces, el autobús a Veracruz, no Veracruz. Una cruz o otra, vía algo cruz a Hualtuco. Entonces, I don't know how to say I took una taxi aquí. Trying to speak Spanish. Michael, 100 pesos is about $5. So people have been asking me for a massage here, right? They're like, what would you charge for a massage? And I said, the economy is a different world right now. So you can pay me whatever you feel comfortable with. What I've been doing for 20 years and have gotten used to people paying me $300 for 2 hours to do, I feel is a wonderful, unique, powerful experience. And I put a lot of energy and effort into it. And I don't feel good about getting paid $20 for it. And people can understand that. However, I took a Thai massage class last year in Laos, and I do feel fine about getting paid whatever to do Thai massage. It's a very different style than what I've developed over the years. So I feel like, in Thailand, I got Thai massages for $10 with including the tip. I gave it was like $6 and I gave like a $4 tip. So I feel like I can give Thai massages to people here for the equivalent of $20 or $50, a 90-minute Thai massage, and feel okay. Like in New York City, I was thinking when I go back to New York City, I could offer a $100 massage that's like a 90-minute Thai massage, or I could offer a $300 massage that is my fancy full body oil, which just requires a lot more effort. So there's a lot more detailed, unique manipulations. But yeah, it's weird to be like, there's a girl I met here who got a 3-hour massage for 900 pesos. And I'm like, I can't compete with that. And I don't want to. I don't want to work my ass off and, my body be in pain. Because at this point in my life, I've been doing massage so long that it's starting to take a toll on my body. So I don't want to put all that effort into it for that little amount of money comparatively. And not that a lot of people are asking me anyway. There's just, I don't have a space to do it here. I certainly can't do it in my room. Francis asked me about sugarcane. I was just discussing this with my Italian friend that we have not seen sugarcane juice being offered to be sold here. However, they have a reduced sugarcane that they call piloncillo, which is not a white sugar. It's not a processed sugar. It's not like a refined sugar. They just take the juice and dry it and crush it up, and they use that a lot. They sell it in little cylinders, which is why they call it piloncillo, and sometimes they sell it in blocks too. So a lot of the candies you can get here are like that. Chocolate girl's down there. I should go buy some chocolate from her. She makes it with piloncillo, y cacahuates, y cacao. Steve, I don't know if you're still here. I just read your comment about the final line in Nightly Compline is, may we have a restful night and a peaceful death. I always love that. There's a group that I loved as a teenager called the Sundays from England. And they had a song called Goodbye that I think of a lot, especially lately. I think I used to sing this song in like talent showy performance night things. I loved the song. It was so good. I vow that it's goodbye to the old ways. Those stories were a good read, but they were dumb as well. I don't remember all the lyrics right now, but I do remember the last line is, oh well, just give me an easy life and a peaceful death. Oh well, just give me an easy life and peaceful death. Yeah, it's a very sweet feeling to just, consciously greet death as a friend, with peace and with clarity and gratefulness. To be like, give me an easy life and a peaceful death. So it's been very nice hanging out with you, and I will continue to hang out with you if you like, or I can go buy some chocolate from the girl on the beach, and maybe I'll do that because I think we've talked long enough. It's been fun to sing. I promise you guys I will work on learning some Spanish songs, and I will do a Spanish singing broadcast one day. But it's been very nice to tell you some stories and do a little teaching and then just hang out and relax. I don't know if I'll go have dinner tonight. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just go to sleep. Maybe I'll watch a TV show. I downloaded some Netflix stuff. Yeah, I've never read like a lot of the St. Francis stuff. My lover of 15 years was a Franciscan, lived at a hermitage up in the mountains of Northern California. And I wasn't able to be in a healthy, resonant way with Christianity at the time while I knew him. But he's definitely he's a good character in the story. Nice to spend some more time with Francis and Frank. Hey, love you guys. Thank you so much for being. I hope you all have some relaxed joy and peace today and this evening, and that you rest very well. And I'm so very grateful.